Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's presentation. My name is AJ Kuftik, and I'm Principal Technologist with Expedient. Today, we're going to talk about cloud data protection with our good friends over at Cohesity. Real quick, to talk about some housekeeping things, please enter questions that you may have into the Q&A panel. We will answer them live. John White, our Chief Innovation Officer, and Rob McCafferty, our Director of Solution Architecture, will be answering questions live in the Q&A. But we'll save some of the questions or cover some themes in the overall Q&A panel at the end. If you ask a question, you enter win a prize. That is a Bose SoundLink speaker. So please ask questions, get a chance to win that prize. And if you have to step away, you missed something, or your coworker's on vacation because it's a holiday week and they wanted to see this, this is all being recorded. It'll be on our website, our YouTube channel. It'll also be on Instagram @_Expedient. It'll be on IGTV. And you'll get an email with a link to it. So there's a number of different opportunities to go back and watch this again if you missed something or if somebody wanted to see it. For those of you who are new to Expedient, we were founded in 2001. We started as a co-location company, branched into managed services, and moved into cloud. We have cloud locations in US East, Central, and West. Our West region in Phoenix just opened at the end of 2019. We have international cloud deployments on customer sites in Australia, Germany, and Canada. So we are capable of delivering our cloud to you if our locations don't work for you. And we're also a Cohesity powered service provider. And today from Cohesity is Kurt Esser. He is our service provider, business development manager for the Americas. So Kurt, hi, how are you?
Hey, thanks AJ. Thanks for the intro. Yes, my name is Kurt Esser from Cohesity. I'm the service provider business development leader for the Americas. Expedient is one of Cohesity's top strategic service providers and has a deep expertise with our technologies. We're very pleased to be part of Expedient's data protection strategy and ecosystem. So thanks for having us, and I'll pass it back to you, AJ.
Thanks, Kurt. So I want to get into this, but I want to get down to the very bottom line of backups, and that's that backups suck. Nobody likes their backups. Unless you're a Cohesity customer, you probably like your backups, but most customers don't like their backups. And there's a lot there's a lot to do with that, right? The big one is platform management. I have to manage all my jobs. I have to manage the backup software itself. I have to patch that. I have to manage all the hardware that it runs on. I have to come up with the actual storage numbers. How much storage am I actually using? How much storage do I actually need? Because again, these are capital expenditures that you have to go make in order to build this overall backup platform. And largely this ends up becoming just as big a storage platform as your primary storage platform that's running all of your applications. And it becomes just as much work to support and maintain it. The other piece is integrations. And if you've run a VMware environment like I have, you've gone to go do a vSphere upgrade. And one of the key pieces I always checked was whether or not my backup software was compatible. And VMware happens to make a lot of changes to their backup software that has a tendency to let go, or that has a tendency to require the backup vendors, whether that's Cohesity or anyone else, to make changes to keep up with the way that VMware would like you to do backups off of their platform. So all of those integration points, and that's just one of them. Then there's the Windows agents, Linux agents, AIX, mainframe, database, all of these other integration points. And it just becomes a big ball of wax to try and maintain all of these things. And finally, restore tests. How often do people actually go do their restore tests? How often do we actually go manage how we restore our things? Maybe you do it as part of your disaster recovery test. Maybe you do it as part of your, you do it as a monthly thing, you do it as a quarterly thing, or you find out when you have a problem that needs a restore and you find out just how good your backups are. I call that the live restore test, and it's never good. But the biggest problem is that backups are necessary. You can't get away from them. You can't escape the need for backups. And there's a lot of reasons for that, right? It's one of the main failbacks for code upgrades, especially when we're talking about commodity off-the-shelf software where it's not as easy to just go back to the previous version of code. You have to go roll back to a previous version of the whole system because you have no idea what DLLs or what files it put in what place when it did the install. Same thing with database schemas. So backups are a necessary piece of our data resiliency strategy to make sure that we maintain operations even when things don't go quite right. The other one is ransomware. If you're looking at your ransomware, strategy, because I think companies need to start having those, and the ability to maintain operations in the event of a ransomware attack. They're happening far more frequently than they used to. And so having some sort of plan to deal with a ransomware attack will generally involve your backups. So figuring out ways to protect your backups so they don't get encrypted. And at the same time, having a plan on how to do a large scale restore, almost a disaster recovery test, to make sure that you're able to get your data back in the event of an attack. But I think we all know why we need backups. And that's that people make mistakes. People make choices. They misread something. They mishear something. They hear that they need to delete server 10 and they delete server 100 because they typed an extra 0. Or they potentially have an automation piece that doesn't filter properly and they end up deleting 20 more systems than they expected to. And you have to restore all of those from backup. So a lot of these reasons why backups are necessary. So how do we make backups better? How do we make it so that it's a lot easier for you to maintain the platform and easier to recover from a failure? Well, we provide the big red undo button, and that's powered by Cohesity. So what we do is our cloud data protection platform is integrated at the tenant level with Expedient Enterprise Cloud. So when you sign up for Expedient Enterprise Cloud service, you get a logical tenant, and that in there has your compute, memory, storage. This is where you run your VMs, all of your networking, and it's all segmented away from other customers. We integrate that cloud data protection at that level. So you get automatic protection of your VMs. You don't have to go pick the job that it lands in. You don't have to make sure that you set up all these extra little bits and bobs to make sure that backups work. They just work out of the box. And that's a key piece to this, because we want to take backups from being a day-to-day maintenance thing that you have to do and keeping the lights on so that you can focus on making the lights as bright as possible, and we take care of that platform for you. You also pay for what you actually use. So remember, we talked about at the beginning where we had how do I make sure that I have enough storage or enough hardware to support all of the backups that I need to take? How do I take into account growth? How do I take into account new projects? All of these things are handled by the way that we provide our services to you, the customer. So you pay per terabyte for what you use. And that's post-dedupe, post-compression. So you're able to stretch that storage a great long way. So you're able to get your backups taken care of without having the big capital expenditure of buying trays of disk. And through Cohesity, we make it super easy to restore. You're able to go into a simple interface and search for what you're looking for. It's very Google-like. So let's look at how restores actually work. A traditional restore would look at the backup storage. And in my experience, that's been cheap and deep, but not terribly fast, right? You're talking about big spinning disks, tape, virtual tape. Somewhere along those lines, you need a lot of places to store bits. And it's usually not terribly quick because everybody goes, well, it's backup storage. Why does it need to be quick? Well, when you go to do a restore, it needs to be quick. And so the backup software goes into that storage. You have to go find the VM. And that may mean that you have to go find the vCenter that it was in, the cluster it was in, the folder it was in, where it was in the inventory. And if you go down to the file level, you now have to know the server it was on, what file system it was on, where in the folder structure it was to go grab that file out. And that can be really, really painful, especially when you get into large file server environments. And so what the backup software does is it goes in and pulls that VM or file from storage and copies it back to the primary location, wherever that may be. And while it's doing that, that workload's offline. It's not running, it's not sitting there powered on, it's doing all of that data copy, and you're staring at a progress bar going faster, come on, faster, come on, faster. It doesn't work. The screaming never works. And then finally, the VM's powered on and your workload can get back up and running, and that can take time. The way that Expedience Restore works is that Cohesity live mounts that VM off of the storage via NFS to vCenter and powers the VM on. And so that VM is running directly off of the Cohesity platform because the storage inside of Cohesity is NVMe and hyperconverged storage. And so what that allows you to do is run very, very quickly off of that system. And then you're able to get that VM back online. And then in the back end, Cohesity actually does the storage migration to the other, to the actual primary storage. So your workload's online while that big data copy is happening. And if you're looking at something like databases or file servers, that can take a really long time. So let's actually get into this demo. We're going to go through backup reporting and policies. which is not terribly exciting, but I want to talk about how we can get really granular with it. Then I'm going to go make a mistake. I'm going to just tell you right now, I'm going to go purposely make a mistake, and then I'm going to fix that mistake. And then I'm going to talk about how somebody else made a mistake, and I'm going to go fix that mistake too. So let's get into our demo. So we're going to start with the policies, right? And so this is the main interface from Cohesity. When you log in, this is what you see. And you're seeing this for your tenant. You don't see everybody else's jobs in here. You see just yours. So I'm logged in as our account for for solutions architecture. This is our demo environment. So if I go to protection and policy manager, I can see these are the policies that we've set up. We back up every 12 hours, and we're capable of doing that because of Cohesity's full once forever incremental backup structures. And we have 2 different retention policies. So you don't have to just pick the one policy that we give to you. We can work with you on what your retention policies need to be. We recognize that not everybody has the same thing. Some people are required by regulation to have very long retention plans. Some are required by operational procedures to have a much longer retention plan. So this is a way that we can provide those to you. So these are the 2 that we have. We have one for 2 weeks, one for 4 weeks. You can get longer than that, but in our environment, this is what we have. And if I go back into my jobs, I'm going to pick this particular instance because this is one of the biggest VMs that we have in our environment, in our demo environment, not in our overall environment, but in our demo environment. It's a 180 gig VM. And every day, twice a day, it's done an incremental backup. And you can see here's the 6 gigs or 5.7 gigs of change that have happened from 9:15 a.m. on the 25th to 9:15 p.m. on the same day. But when it actually writes that change to disk, it's only writing 1.8 gigs to disk. This is the actual amount that you would pay for when you're paying per terabyte. Now, obviously you pay per terabyte, you're not paying per gigabyte. So this would consume part of that terabyte. But because we have dedupe and compression across the board, and there's a global deduplication table that we can reference, we're able to get huge deduplication rates, and that actually saves you a ton of money. So let's jump into the actual mistakes. Let's show how mistakes are made. So someone asked me that I needed to go delete one of the Ubuntu VMs. Well, I log in here and I see this Ubuntu VM. So I go and power this off. I'm given the opportunity to not make that mistake once. So I've now powered off this VM. And if I go in here and I hit delete, it's giving me another chance to not do this. And yet I've done it. And then someone says, why did you delete that one? I wanted you to delete Ubuntu-1. Oh, that's further down the list that I didn't see. It's not in this view. I saw the first Ubuntu machine and I deleted it. That's on me. So how do we fix this? We're going to go to protection. We're going to go to recovery. And we're going to go recover this VM. Now, traditionally, backup software would make you go figure out what vCenter this lives on, what cluster it's in, what host it's in. Here, I just search for the VM. That's all I have to do. And I can pick this VM. I could go into the main VM list and pick it out of there, but here, I'm just going to pick it right out of the list, and I'm going to click continue. And so now I can recover this VM. I can rename it and give it a prefix or a suffix to make sure that I'm not powering this on over top of a VM that's already running. We can pick what network it needs to land on. And I'm going to go down here and click finish. And so this is actually going to kick off the restore. That's simple. That's all I had to do. No diving through directory trees or anything like that. So at about 20 seconds into this, I can look and see that it's already gone into the inventory in vCenter and created the VM. And it's already started relocating the VM. So within seconds of actually starting this, we already have the VM back in the inventory. We already have it ready to go. So all of the data copy has happened again. I can go back into EEC. I can refresh my inventory and I can see that my VM is back. It's now back. It's finishing off the import into the inventory. And I can go in and power it back on. So just as simple as that. Whoops, made a mistake, went in, got it right back. But let's say that somebody else has made a mistake. Something along the lines of, I lost a file. And I think everybody here has gotten the request to restore monthly expense report.xlsx from the big file server, from the Q drive, from the L drives, something along those lines. Trying to find it in that big folder structure is almost impossible. With Cohesity, it goes in and indexes all of those file systems. So I don't have to learn what the file systems are. I don't want to learn the file trees because there's just space in my brain I don't need to be taken up by file trees. So if I search for something like sensitive, and I want to pull this extremely sensitive information, this is on one of the servers that's in the environment. I didn't have to know that it was on that server. I just see what the path is, and I'm able to jump directly into and grab that file. So I'm going to pick this file. I have a number of different recovery points to go back to. So I can pick the 20th or the 19th. Let's say somebody made a change on the 21st. No one noticed until today. I can go back to the 20th and grab that file. I also have this modified field. This is actually the modification date from the file system telling me when the file was last modified. So I can see that maybe Mike went in and changed this file. I can go back to the previously modified saved version and know that I'm getting the right version because it's not when he made his change. Now, most people would recover this to the server and put it right back in the file structure so the user can see that it's back where it's supposed to be. But I also have the option to download it now. And what this does is this downloads it locally to my machine. So I can send it to the user and say, is this the file you meant to, you were talking about? And then I can put it back in the file system, or they can go put it back in the folder where it's supposed to be. And if I open up this extremely sensitive information, don't anybody tell anybody about this, but it just says, thank you for opening my file. Shh, secret between us. It's fine. Shh. So all of this is being powered by Cohesity. And this gives us a really, really flexible data protection platform to work off of. You pay per terabyte used, and because of that deduplication, you're able to gain a ton of backup space without having to actually pay for the 50 terabytes of data that you actually have. You could probably dedupe yourself if you have a bunch of Windows VMs. Windows is Windows. It's the same block every single time. And so you're able to dedupe that way. Linux is Linux, you're able to dedupe that way. And then because we have the customer base that we have, we're able to dedupe at that global level, in that global deduplication table. It looks at the metadata and sees the correct blocks. So we're able to get the things into the platform that we need to get into. That Google-like restore process makes this super simple to go back and grab a file, to go back and grab a VM without having to know all of the ins and outs of the system. All of that data is encrypted at rest, AE256 encryption, or AES256 encryption, excuse me. And what that allows us to do is make sure that at no point is your data sitting there unencrypted, available to be read by anybody. It's only able to be read by you. We manage that platform. We want to take this. We want to make sure that you make the lights as bright as possible and not worry constantly about whether they're going to work in the first place or not. So we'll manage that platform for you. You focus on your applications. The cloud data protection is actually just part of an overall resiliency plan, an overall resiliency strategy. And backup and restore, especially now, is really important with things like ransomware. But so is having a really good disaster recovery plan. And so as part of our resiliency strategy, we're able to provide multiple avenues for that. And so if you come back next week, we'll be back on Thursday. So today, thank you for joining us on a Wednesday. But next week, we'll be back on our usual Thursday, 12:30 slot. We'll be talking about our push button DR platform with Zerto. So come join us for that. You can see how we handle replication, our full network failover, which is always a good time. And we can talk about that overall resiliency strategy. If you want to schedule a test drive on this, please go to expedient.com/VMware-test-drive. You can sign up for an EEC tenant. It's 128 gigs of RAM and a terabyte of storage for 30 days. So you can try it out, see how it runs, see the performance, see how you manage the operations, and you can see how we do bigger things like infrastructure as code, containers, NSX, firewall rules, all sorts of fun stuff. You can also email me at aj.kuftik@expedient.com, and we can help get that scheduled for you. And with that, I'm going to open it up for Q&A with John and Rob. I see that they've been doing a fantastic job cleaning up those questions in there. So John, Rob, you want to jump on? We could talk through maybe some themes of those questions.
Yeah, thanks, AJ. It's definitely been a busy day in the Q&A session. So thanks everybody for the awesome questions. So a few that I want to kind of hit on that I think were some global themes. People ask kind of what's supported inside this platform. And so we're obviously doing a lot of backups via VMware hypervisor. So that's obviously in there. There's all kinds of different database and apps that you can back up and restore. So SQL, Exchange, Mongo, Oracle, SharePoint, HANA, all those types of things, they're available. You can actually do direct backups from different storage arrays as well. So if you're running an Isilon out there, you can actually back up that array directly. Same with NetApp and a handful of other ones. This also will support backing up from multiple clouds as well. So if you're running something on AWS, Azure, Google, even like if you're running an OpenStack environment, something like that, we can actually back that up as well onto this platform. So there's a lot of different ways and options you can actually use this platform. So if you take a look at it, it's inside of, you can find a lot of this information on the Cohesity's website, inside of their resource assets. There's a ton of data sheets. This one specifically, we can put it in the link notes, but it's a Cohesity Data Protect slide. So lots of different options for you. So no matter what you have running, there's a good chance this will be able to be backed up with Cohesity. Some people asked, some of the differences between Cohesity and a lot of the other manufacturers that are out there. The Cohesity platform is a little bit unique since it is software and hardware intermingled together. So the restore time is something really to note here. If you didn't take a look at it, or if you haven't heard of the technology, something you can search on, and again, we'll send a link out, is for the Cohesity Snap Tree. This is the technology they developed to allow restores to happen very quickly. And somebody even asked the question, if I do a full backup and then I do all these incrementals, it's going to take forever to roll all those incrementals into that full backup to get your certain point of time. This is where Snaptree comes in together. It's always creating basically a full hydrated VM or any type of data that you can then instantly restore. And one of the powerful things about putting the hardware and the software together is the restore actually happens onto the NVMe drives out of the regular spinning hard disk drive. So it's going and sending as fast as it possibly can from the spinning disk into the NVMe super fast. And that NVMe storage is actually able to be broadcasted and presented into the VMware environment. And as soon as the way it does the restore, as soon as the base OS gets up and running on the NVMe, it goes and presents itself out so you can actually start the OS, and it'll continue to restore all the other information that might not be that important to actually running the VM. And it's doing this still all in the NVMe. And once the VM is fully restored, it does an automatic storage vMotion in the back end into the VMware platform, so you don't even know about it. So one of the main things that we were looking at when we were doing a backup vendor change is we get some of our customers get hit with ransomware. If we had 50 VMs hit with ransomware on traditional backup platforms, it would take us almost 2 weeks to do the restore. Doing it in Cohesity, we can do that really in under 30 minutes. So big delta there. The speed of restoration is kind of a big kind of change for us compared to a lot of the other vendors. And the Snaptree technology, if you're into it and you want to geek out on something, take a look at it. It's pretty cool, and it's one of the big things that's a major differentiator between Cohesity and all their competitors. Somebody asked, can you back up Office 365? Yes, that is supported as well, so we can do that. Is there a virtual appliance for AWS? Yes, there is, and so there's a lot actually different ways you can interact with AWS, whether it's providing as a long-term archive, tertiary site, something like that. So a lot of different ways we can interact with multiple clouds to kind of build an awesome solution for you.
It's a question about being able to automate and write code against the system, specifically around Python and PowerShell. Yeah, so API available so that you can create automations for setting up jobs, for modifying jobs, for gathering, reporting and information, confirming success, all those kind of metrics that you might be interested in.
We got a lot of questions. Can we do backups if you're not inside of EEC into this platform? Yes, you can. You surely can do that. We got a few, and we'll touch on it again. Pricing structure here. AJ hit on a few points. It's all per terabyte. Something to kind of state again, because it's really important. We sell on per terabyte consumed, so what you're actually writing to the disk. And so you could have 100 terabytes, and if you're only writing one unique terabyte, because we've seen the data in the system before, because we are using global deduplication here, you're only paying for the 1 terabyte. So retention times, where you might have been in the past, we can only really afford 4 weeks. Well, you might be able to take it out to 45 days, 60 days, something like that, because the data backup model is very, very efficient. A lot of compliance questions as well. So that seems to definitely be a theme for a lot of the people joining in. Yes, I mean, you can go through and, HIPAA and PCI compliance. I mean, that's obviously, you can't wave a magic wand, but those are all the things that are in scope for a lot of our customers that we talk about on a regular basis. And we use this as a back end to provide data protection for them. Just so everybody knows, I threw the 2 links out into the chat. So it talks about Snaptree, and then talked about all the things that Cohesity Data Protect can restore and back up. Some people asked about the database backups. So there's a module that actually installs inside of the OS to actually pull the database that way. There's a lot of different ways you can kind of handle it when you're doing Oracle, but a lot of the different databases that are out there, SQL Exchange, even Mongo, there's modules in there to kind of make life pretty easy. So that's installed, very lightweight, and just gives you the access to see inside the database instead of just grabbing a file level. You can do both, file level as well as database level. So we have a lot of our customers that will run like database dumps to the file on a nightly basis, or whatever time they want to run them, and dump the flat file, and then pick up the backup that way.
One thing that was asked kind of in a couple of different ways, and we didn't touch on it so much in the demos. We focus more on backup and recovery, but Cohesity can be a file platform as well, which is something that Expedient offers. So if you have your favorite backup software that you already like, we can provide storage-based solutions off of the Cohesity platform for archiving, for long-term retention, those types of use cases.
All right. So we're still taking some live questions. I think we're hitting most of them. I'll answer, or AJ's going to answer one question live.
You just answered it as part of the SQL agent, Oracle agent questions. So that's how you would back up the database design instead of just the data itself. So you would be you'd back up the system level to get the actual database design. There's an agent to actually go in and do database level backups. And then there's also file level backups you can do. So there's a number of different opportunities to go in and actually do that recovery, do that backup and then the recovery.
Yeah. And Rob mentioned, the file platform. That's important. I mean, this is a file platform. So if you have big, file shares that you're running today that are the secondary storage, you can store it inside of here. Backups become essentially free then. So that's a big major benefit as well. So there's that. Object storage is coming soon to our version of the platform. That is something that's available today. We didn't talk too much about the DR portion of this, but we can use this for a lot of the tier 3 applications. So if you don't need a super fast RPO, this is a great option for it. We actually use Cohesity a lot of times too for data migrations. So we've done thousands of VM migrations over the last year or so using this platform. So we're backing up the data and then simply doing a redirected restore into a new platform. So that works pretty easily as well. Some people asked about, or somebody asked about, can you back up a VMware VM and then restore to AWS or another platform, that is something that is somewhat doable. Note that there's a conversion that needs to be done. Anytime you're taking a VMware VM into another platform. So that's usually pretty clunky and sometimes not automated. So, going through and using that as a migration tool probably wouldn't be, my top choice, but it is something that is doable.
I see that somebody's asking about Cohesity working with Epic to certify Cohesity as a Epic recommended backup solution. On Cohesity's website, they have Epic and how it can back up intersystems cache databases. So it is there is an opportunity there. So I would go look at Cohesity's website around how they handle Epic and their white paper there. Epic can be finicky, so totally understand the question.
Try to see what else we haven't hit here. I think we hit majority of these questions. Anybody want to throw any last minute ones in there? Licensing, about it. So people asked about, is licensing taken care of by Expedient? So this is something that we just simply sell per terabyte. So the licensing is included inside of that. So you buy it from us per terabyte, and then all the licensing, hardware, making sure that the backups are going on, that kind of stuff, that's all handled by us. This is a full managed services from that standpoint. Anybody want to throw any last minute live questions in here?
I do have an announcement though.
Okay, great.
So the winner of the Bose SoundLink speaker is Jeremy Ray. So Jeremy, congratulations. Karen will be reaching out to you here in a bit. So congratulations. Thanks for asking the question.
Nice, Jeremy. Congratulations. So somebody asked, does Cohesity have a master server to manage all the backup processes? This is something that is built in a scale out environment. So it doesn't have basically a single server that does it. All the servers that are a part of the cluster are participating in the ability to back up and index the data. So there's a lot of tech you can kind of read about here, but all of those things are done across multiple things. So where in traditional backup platforms, yeah, you've had one server that's kind of the master, and then maybe you had a database server kind of attached to it, and you had kind of where the data lives. It's not really built into this. This is all one hyperconverged compliance to kind of make backups easy. Cool. With that, if there's no other new questions here, I think we answered quite a bit. Thanks for attending and joining us. We appreciate it, and we love keeping the Q&A going. So as AJ mentioned, feel free to reach out to us and via, talking to AJ via email, Twitter, LinkedIn, whatever it might be. You can hit us at expedient.com, and you can set up test drives, and we can do demos and further demos on all this product. So a lot of different ways we can keep the communication going, keep the education going, and we're happy to assist any way possible.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. See ya.
Thanks, everyone.